Welcome back to the deep dive. This time we're going deep into Filthy Rich Santas. It's a romance novel by Eva Ashwood. Now, this isn't your typical holiday romance. We're dealing with a young woman named Lana, who's exploring her kinky side with not one, but three men,
Oh, wow.
who also happen to be her brother's best friends. So you can already see where things might get complicated.
Yeah.
We'll be unpacking the themes and dynamics of this unique relationship. And I have to say, the setup alone has me intrigued. What are your initial thoughts?
Well, it's a powder keg of potential drama, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely.
You've got Lana, who is clearly on a journey of self-discovery, yearning for something more than the conventional life her family expects of her. And then you have these three men, Beckett, Tristan, and Ryder, who represent a break from that very conventionality. The fact that they are her brother's closest friends just adds fuel to the fire, creating this forbidden element that is so central to the story's appeal.
And you can feel Lana's yearning to break free right from the start. Early on in the book, she says, I feel like I'm slowly drowning in a sea of conformity. It's such a powerful image, right?
Yes.
It speaks to that feeling of being trapped by societal expectations, especially when those expectations come from your family.
Right, and it's interesting how the author chooses to set this story against the backdrop of a kink club called Radiance. Not only does this introduce us to the world of BDSM,
Yeah.
but it also serves as a physical manifestation of Lana's desire to break free. Radiance becomes this space where societal norms are challenged, where exploration and self-expression are encouraged. It's almost like a symbolic rebellion against everything Lana's family, and perhaps society as a whole, expects of her.
That's a really interesting point. It's like the kink club becomes this external representation of Lana's internal struggle. And speaking of struggles, one character I found particularly compelling was Beckett. He's clearly attracted to Lana, but he's also incredibly aware of the implications for his friendship with her brother. It's like he's caught between desire and loyalty, which creates this incredible tension in their interactions.
Beckett is definitely the most conflicted of the three men. He even thinks to himself at one point, there's no fucking way I can have her. And even if I could, I wouldn't. I don't do attachments. It's almost as if he's trying to convince himself that he doesn't have feelings for Lana, but his actions and the way he looks at her betray his true emotions.
Exactly. He's trying to resist, but the pull is just too strong. It makes you wonder if his attraction to Lana is also a form of rebellion. Could it be that he's drawn to her precisely because she represents everything he's been trying to avoid?
That's a fascinating interpretation. The text certainly hints at a deeper psychological conflict within Beckett, his reluctance to commit his fear of attachment. These could stem from past experiences, or even a subconscious desire to break free from his own self-imposed restrictions. Lana, with her boldness and willingness to embrace her desires, could be seen as a catalyst for him to confront these deep-seated issues.
It's so interesting how the author layers these complex emotions onto the already unconventional relationship dynamic. And it's not just Beckett who's grappling with his feelings. You've got Ryder, who seems to be the more lighthearted and playful of the three, but even he exhibits a certain vulnerability when it comes to Lana. And then there's Tristan, who from the outset appears the most open to exploring a relationship with her.
What's striking about these three men is that despite their individual personalities and approaches to Lana, they all share a deep respect for her. This is particularly evident in the way they navigate the world of BDSM. For instance, there's a scene where they take the time to educate Lana about safe words and aftercare, emphasizing the importance of consent and communication within this context.
Yes, and this scene is so crucial because it establishes a foundation of trust and respect, which is essential in any relationship, but even more so in a BDSM context. It shows that while these men are dominant figures in Lana's sexual awakening, they are also incredibly attentive to her needs and boundaries.
Absolutely. It challenges the stereotype of BDSM as purely about power and control. Instead, the author portrays it as a dynamic that, when practiced responsibly, can be incredibly empowering and liberating, especially for someone like Lana, who is just beginning to explore her sexuality. It's like she's taking ownership of her desires. And these men are acting as guides, not dictators.
And speaking of power dynamics, we can't forget about the external pressures that influence Lana's choices. Her family, particularly her mother, plays a significant role in shaping her self-perception. The constant criticism, the subtle and sometimes not so subtle attempts to control her life, it all creates this invisible cage that Lana is desperately trying to break free from.
That's a really important point. Lana's journey of self-discovery isn't just about exploring her sexuality. It's also about breaking free from the expectations and limitations imposed upon her by her family and, by extension, society. It makes you wonder, Is her attraction to these three men, particularly her brother's friends, a subconscious act of rebellion? Is she seeking validation outside the confines of her restrictive upbringing?
It's definitely a possibility, and you see this tension play out in her interactions with her ex-boyfriend Wade. He represents everything her family wants for her: stability, conventionality, the right kind of relationship, but Lana realizes that she can't go back to that life, not when she's finally starting to discover who she truly is.
It's a classic case of the safe, predictable choice versus the path less traveled, the one that promises excitement and self-discovery, even if it comes with risks and uncertainty. And it's clear that Lana is no longer content with simply playing it safe. It's almost as if Wade represents that sea of conformity Lana mentioned earlier. He embodies the expectations that she's trying to escape. And speaking of escape, one of the most fascinating aspects of this novel is the role of Grandma Meg.
Oh,
She's Tristan's grandmother, but she becomes so much more than that for Lana.
Absolutely. Grandma Meg is such a breath of fresh air in this story. She's this incredibly warm, accepting figure who provides Lana with the unconditional love and support that she's been craving. Her home becomes this sanctuary, a place where Lana can be her true self without judgment or expectations.
It's like she's stepping into an alternate universe, isn't it? One where family isn't defined by blood ties, but by shared values and genuine connection. Grandma Meg's acceptance of Lana's unconventional relationship with the three men speaks volumes about her open-mindedness and her unwavering belief in Lana's right to happiness.
Yes. And it's not just about accepting Lana's relationship choices. Grandma Meg also provides a safe space for Lana to open up about her lupus diagnosis. This is a significant part of Lana's story that we haven't really touched upon yet, but it adds another layer of complexity to her character.
Absolutely. The lupus diagnosis adds a layer of vulnerability to Lana. It makes her question her own strength, her ability to be desired and loved. But the way that three men, and particularly Grandma Meg, react to her diagnosis is incredibly heartwarming. They rally around her, offering practical help and emotional support. It reinforces this idea of chosen family, of finding love and acceptance in the most unexpected places.
It's a beautiful contrast to the way Lana's own family treats her, isn't it? They're so focused on appearances, on what society dictates, that they miss out on the opportunity to truly connect with Lana on a deeper level. They never ask her how she's feeling, what she needs. It's all about maintaining a facade of perfection, even if it means sacrificing genuine connection.
And this ties back to the theme of self-discovery, doesn't it? Lana's journey isn't just about finding love and sexual fulfillment. It's also about accepting herself, flaws and all. Her lupus diagnosis becomes a catalyst for self-reflection, forcing her to confront her own insecurities and redefine what it means to be strong and desirable.
It's such a powerful message for anyone who's ever felt like they don't fit in, like they have to hide parts of themselves to be accepted. And it's not just about physical illness. Lana's story also touches upon the societal pressures women face, the expectations to be perfect, to conform to certain roles and behaviors.
And the author doesn't shy away from the emotional toll. These expectations take on Lana. We see her struggling with anxiety, with self-doubt. But what's inspiring is that she doesn't let these challenges define her. She keeps pushing forward, seeking out experiences that bring her joy and fulfillment, even if they challenge the status quo.
Now, we've talked a lot about the deeper themes of the novel, but let's not forget about the romance. Lana's journey of self-discovery is intertwined with her exploration of BDSM. And the author does a fantastic job of depicting this aspect of the story in a nuanced and respectful way.
For anyone who might be unfamiliar with BDSM, it's important to understand that it's not just about whips and chains. It's about exploring different power dynamics, about pushing boundaries and discovering what brings you pleasure in a safe and consensual environment.
Exactly. And the three men in Lana's life are incredibly patient and attentive guides. In this process, they prioritize her comfort and safety above all else. They constantly check in with her, ensuring she feels empowered and in control every step of the way.
This emphasis on consent and communication is so crucial, especially when dealing with themes of power exchange. And it's refreshing to see an author handle this aspect of the story with such sensitivity and responsibility.
There are scenes where Lana expresses her anxieties or uncertainties, and the men listen attentively, offering reassurance and support. It's clear that they genuinely care about her well-being, both inside and outside the bedroom. And this care extends beyond their sexual relationship. We see it in the way they react to her lupus diagnosis, in the way they support her dreams and aspirations. They're not just lovers. They become her confidants, her cheerleaders, her chosen family.
It's almost as if they see the real Lana, the one who's been hiding behind a mask of conformity. And they love her for it. They encourage her to embrace her individuality, to shed the expectations that have been weighing her down.
And that brings us back to the idea of love and sexuality being intertwined. With personal growth, Lana's journey isn't just about finding romantic fulfillment. It's about discovering her own power, her own agency. It's about breaking free from the limitations that society and even her own family have imposed upon her.
It's a powerful message, and one that resonates deeply with anyone who's ever felt like they're living someone else's life.
Yeah.
Lana's story reminds us that we all have the right to define our own happiness, to seek out relationships that nourish and empower us, and to embrace our true selves, even if it means challenging the norms.
It's almost as if Filthy Rich Santis throws out the traditional romance playbook, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about a polyamorous relationship with three men who are best friends with the protagonist's brother. On paper, it sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Right.
But the author somehow manages to make it work.
It's a delicate balancing act, for sure. And I think what makes it believable, at least within the context of the story, is the emphasis on communication and emotional honesty. These characters, despite their unconventional arrangement, are remarkably open with each other about their feelings, their needs, their fears. They create a space where vulnerability is not just accepted, but encouraged.
You're so right. And it makes you wonder, could this kind of openness, this willingness to challenge societal norms, be the key to building stronger, more fulfilling relationships, regardless of the structure?
That's a question worth pondering, isn't it? I mean, we live in a world where monogamy is often presented as the default, the only acceptable way to experience love and commitment. But Filthy Rich Santis invites us to consider other possibilities, to question our assumptions about what a relationship can look like, who it can involve.
It's definitely a thought-provoking read, and I have to admit, as someone who loves a good happy ending, I was a bit apprehensive about how the author would wrap up this story. After all, how do you create a satisfying resolution for a relationship that challenges so many conventions?
Well, that's the clever part, isn't it?
Yeah.
The ending of Filthy Rich Santis is both satisfying and open-ended. We see Lana embracing her choices, finding happiness and fulfillment in this unconventional family she's created. But there's also this subtle acknowledgement that the road ahead might not be easy. There will be challenges, there will be societal pressures, there will be moments of doubt.
It's like the author is saying, here's a glimpse into a world where love and relationships can exist outside the traditional boundaries, but it's not a fairy tale. It requires work, it requires communication, it requires a willingness to challenge the status quo.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes this story so compelling. It doesn't offer easy answers or paint a perfect picture. It simply presents a different way of experiencing love and connection, leaving it up to the reader to decide whether they find it appealing, believable, or even aspirational.
It's a story that stays with you, that makes you think about your own beliefs and assumptions about love and relationships, and it definitely leaves you wanting more. So for all of you listening, I have one final question. Does the ending of Filthy Rich Santis feel satisfying to you? Or does it leave you with unanswered questions about the long-term feasibility of this kind of relationship? It's something to ponder as you explore other romance novels, perhaps those that challenge conventional relationship structures. You might be surprised by what you discover about yourself and the world around you. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.